Hello and welcome to Principles of Accounting 1, Chapter 1. We are getting started on Chapter 1 here. One thing I want you to kind of think about as we go through this chapter is that almost every single college textbook, Chapter 1 is a huge overview of the rest of the book. So if it seems like some things that we're going over in here might be a little vague, it's because we're just kind of doing an overview, okay? So let's get started. Accounting in the business environment. And we have some objectives here. I'm going to make a video on each one of those objectives. So that will be our cutoff point for each one of these videos. We are only going to do the first 5 objectives. We are not going to do the ratio return on assets. We have a whole chapter later on that will cover all of the ratios and we'll have a project over it. So we have that to look forward to. So I don't like to kind of muddy up the water too much here in these chapters and just kind of look at all of those at one point. Okay, so let's get started on the first learning objective. So we are looking at why is accounting important and who actually uses accounting information. Well, think about it. Have you pulled up the app on your phone and looked at how much money you have in your checking account? Well, you were one of those users of accounting information, okay? So let's talk about what is accounting. Okay, accounting's been around for 500 years. The problem that I see in teaching accounting is that some terms have been taken from the accounting profession and they're used for other things. So it makes it really complicated and it makes accounting harder than it really should be. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We're in the accounting classroom. Try not to think about too many things going on the outside. And those things that will get you confused, I will definitely point those out to you. Okay. So let's kind of define what is it. Accounting is an information system, okay? Measures business activities, processes the information into reports, and communicates the results to decision makers, okay? Let's break this down. I just read that to you. I rarely am just going to read things to you, but I want to break it down. Accounting is an information system. Most of the time, we think of an information system as a computer. I'm recording these videos right here on a computer. But accounting, even 500 years ago, when there was no computers, was still an information system. If we are doing accounting paper and pencil, it is still an information system. It is a way to group all those business activities together. We put it through a process, whether that's a computer or whether it's not. And then we put it into reports and then we communicate those results to decision makers. Okay, so keep that in mind that it's an information system even without a computer, although pretty much nobody does accounting by hand anymore at all. A few people might have really just done their own taxes paper and pencil, but I don't even do that. I use TurboTax. Okay. So I use a computer system just because it's more efficient and effective for them to do all those calculations. I can do them. I just would rather that computer do them for me. Okay. All right. So we have a little pathways model here. A lot of time, I really like this. This one right over here. Um, you kind of see black and white, right or wrong, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I've said this so many times in the accounting classroom. In the accounting classroom, most everything we're going to go over, it's pretty black and white. But even if you go and you are a bookkeeper, I was a bookkeeper before I finished college, even a little bit after I finished college, and there's a lot of gray area. There is not just a whole lot of that is just it is right or wrong. Okay. And I encountered some of those things, even with a small business. I encountered some gray area, had to kind of stand up just a little bit for myself and say, hey, I don't really understand this transaction. So I would rather somebody else make this transaction with their initials rather than me because I don't understand the transaction that we're making here and why we're making it. Okay. That's really hard sometimes because they could say, well, you do it or you're fired. At that time, my boss just did it. But that was really hard. That was really hard because I did not understand what the transaction was. It may or may not have been fraud. I don't really know, but I didn't feel comfortable with it, so I didn't do that. That is rarely how things are. In this classroom, though, most everything is going to kind of be black and white. We have all these, right or wrong, assets, liabilities, but in the real world, there is a lot of gray area. We can make good decisions, and good decisions could lead to consequences, okay? Even though they're a good decision, all right? So it's kind of an interesting little model. I think this is the first time I've ever seen this in a textbook, okay? So right here, we're going to talk about the users of financial information, and accounting is split pretty much into two broad categories. For this class, for the most part, we are going to be focusing on financial accounting, okay? Up until close to the end of Principles of Accounting 2, then we will throw in a few managerial accounting chapters in there. But when you think of financial accounting, think of external business decision makers. When you think of managerial accounting, think of internal decision makers. Okay. So financial accounting has a lot more rules and regulations just because these results are being communicated to people outside of the organization. Managerial accounting is we still have those rules, but there might not be a perfect way to count inventory. Okay. There could be more than one way to count the inventory. There could be more than one way to do some things. As long as we get to the number that we're supposed to for financial accounting purposes, then it's fine. So if I just throw out counting inventory because my husband was an inventory control manager for a long time, and there's really not a set way when you're in that position to count the inventory. They counted about 3 aisles every day. He had a team of people working underneath him. Every day, 3 aisles would get counted, and then the records would be updated to make sure the correct numbers are in the system. By the end of every quarter, the whole warehouse had been counted. Okay. So it doesn't really, there could be another really good way of doing that under managerial accounting as long as we still get to the right number. Okay. So think of external for managerial. Financial accounting is more, I'm sorry, I think I said managerial is internal, financial is external. Okay. So who are these decision makers? For financial accounting, these are going to be investors. Okay. People who are investing in our company. Creditors, people who we've borrowed money from, or lenders. And it is okay to borrow money. In the business world, businesses borrow money because sometimes it's better to use somebody else's money than it is to use your money. Okay. Taxing authorities, they want to look at things because they want to know how much taxes are we owed. So the IRS wants to know how much money we're making. Okay. So these are all external. Then we have managerial accounting. We have managers, employees, individuals, businesses. All of those are sort of internal. Okay. So the rules are just a little bit different. Okay. We're not really learning two sets of rules. Like I said, in managerial, sometimes there's different ways to do things. We just find the most efficient and then we roll with it. Okay. So what kind of accountant could you be? So for those of you who are going to be an accounting major, here's your options. Those of you who are not, you still got to do Principles 1, Principles 2, and Financial Management. Maybe I can convince you to switch your major to accounting, but if not, it's okay. The most important exam to take for any accounting major is the CPA exam. That is a Certified Public Accountant. It is the hardest standardized test in America. I did pass it in 2019. I was a little bit older when I passed it, but that's okay. I passed it. And that is the only thing I have framed in my office is my CPA license. I do not have any of my other degrees framed in my office, but that CPA license is on my wall. Okay. That's what most people think of when they think of accountants, but not everybody has to be a CPA. They could be something different. There's a couple of different categories. They could do a chartered global management accountant. They have more advanced knowledge in finance, operations, strategy, and management. You could be a certified management accountant, a CMA, okay? Very specialized in accounting, financial management knowledge, and they often work for a single company, okay? Then there could be a certified financial planner. They may work with individuals to help them budget, plan for retirement, save for education, or manage their finances. Okay. Some of the accounting positions, you could be in corporate or industry accounting. You could be in public accounting. Now, let me just kind of tell you just a little bit what public accounting is. Public accounting is auditing. This is where CPAs, they go into businesses. They are independent from that business. So you will find a CPA who will go into Walmart. They don't own any Walmart stock. They do not work for Walmart. They are the CPA that is going into Walmart. And they're not saying, they're looking at the financial statements. They're not going in there and saying, this is a good business, this is a bad business to invest in. They're saying, is this business following the rules? Following the rules of GAAP. We'll talk about those in just a few minutes. Are they following the rules? Yes or no? Because if everybody's following the same rules, we can compare different organizations across the board. We can compare a Walmart to a Ford Motor Company. Okay. They all have the same rules. Okay. There could be financial services. There could be governmental accounting. Governmental accounting is very different from financial accounting. If you are an accounting major, you will get to take government and not-for-profit accounting. So those are different positions, and there's hundreds more type of accounting positions. There's a huge shortage in accounting majors right now. So if you want guaranteed employment for the rest of your life, you probably need to be an accounting major, okay? Because there is so few. I go to lots of conferences and I'm hearing things about even things that they are changing on what requirements it takes to take the CPA exam. That's actually happening currently right now here in Arkansas. Probably by the time this video is listened to any students, those rules might be changed, okay? But I'm keeping up with those. So, but there's not a lot of people becoming accounting majors because it's not the easiest degree or profession. Okay. Here's some salary ranges. We have all the way down here to accounting clerks or bookkeeping. If you do principles 1 and 2, that's sort of where bookkeepers, that's the knowledge they have. Once you hit intermediate accounting, in the junior year, that's really separates the bookkeepers from the accountants at that point. Okay. So you have cost accountants. I had an uncle who was a cost accountant. My mother was a bookkeeper. She went to business school during a time where women could not be CPAs. I mean, I guess they could, but it just didn't happen very often. So she was a bookkeeper. And I had another uncle who almost had a PhD in accounting before he passed away. So that's on both sides of my family. So I guess I really didn't have much choice than to be an accountant. All right. So auditors, I kind of mentioned to you about an auditor going into those public businesses. You could have a tax accountant. I actually have a daughter who is almost 30 years old right now, and she is a tax accountant. She's been working in taxes longer than I ever have. So when it comes to taxes, she probably knows a lot more than I do. We have business system analysts. Those people, they go in there and use accounting knowledge to create a computer system. Okay. Controllers, and then you have all the way up to CFOs, the Chief Financial Officer. They don't mention it here, but most CEOs have traveled up the path of accounting. There's a lot of CEOs who have gotten their start in accounting because that's the fastest way really to get you to. You might be here, you might get to the CFO, but you might go to the CEO level as well. So if that is something you want to be the CEO, you need an accounting degree, okay? So keep that in mind, and they make really good money. They work really, really hard too. Okay. I don't want to just like pretend that this is an easy degree. So get this degree and you're going to be able to make this big salary. That's not really the case. It's not an easy degree. And it's not an easy job either. Okay. So this is a trend going on pretty much everywhere is data analytics. And we have a lot of this going on in accounting right now because, we use a lot of data analytics in doing things. I don't know as much about data analytics as I would like to, but I'm always looking into things, trying to get myself um, more knowledge when it comes to data analytics. Okay. Data visualizations, these are just graphs, things like that that go along with analyzing the data. Okay. We're going to stop the video right here for this one, and I will see you in the next one.